Ethan Thompson's mornings began long before the sun peeked over the horizon. At 28, he had grown accustomed to the foul odors and the heavy workload that came with being a garbage truck driver in a small, struggling town in Ohio. The town was not kind to those without means, and Ethan knew this all too well. His life had taken a sharp turn when a car accident claimed his father, Mark, and left him with a permanently injured leg. Despite his physical pain, Ethan pushed through each day, driven by a sense of responsibility toward his mother, Laura. Laura Thompson, in her early 60s, was a house cleaner. Years of scrubbing floors and dusting high shelves had taken a toll on her body, particularly her arthritic hands. Yet, she worked tirelessly, determined to support her son and keep a roof over their heads. Their bond was strong, but Laura often found herself frustrated by Ethan's overly compassionate nature. He was always helping others, often at the expense of their own limited resources. On one particularly frigid winter morning, Ethan was on his usual route, navigating the narrow, icy streets with care. The early hour meant the town was still and quiet, the only sounds being the hum of his truck and the occasional rustle of wind. As he turned down a deserted road, something unusual caught his eye. A young woman, barely dressed for the weather, was frantically waving him down. Ethan squinted through the windshield, unsure of what he was seeing. The woman's disheveled appearance and the sheer panic in her eyes jolted him into action. He pulled over and hurriedly got out of the truck, his breath visible in the cold air. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, trying to keep his voice calm despite the urgency he felt. "Just drive," the woman snapped, her voice trembling. She climbed into the truck, shivering uncontrollably. Ethan didn't press her for details. He cranked up the heat and started driving, glancing at her out of the corner of his eye. She looked to be in her mid-20s, her clothes were torn, and there was a wild, desperate look about her. Despite her initial rudeness, Ethan's heart went out to her. "Where to?" he asked gently. "Just keep going straight," she said, hugging herself to stay warm. Ethan drove in silence, his mind racing with questions. Who was she? What had happened to her? But he respected her need for silence and focused on the road. After a few miles, she pointed to a large, run-down mansion set back from the road, barely visible through the overgrown hedges. "There," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan pulled up to the gate, and the woman jumped out, running towards the mansion. He watched as she disappeared into the darkness, uncertainty gnawing at him. Moments later, an older man, disheveled and wearing a tattered bathrobe, emerged from the mansion. He looked around frantically until he spotted the woman. "Emily!" the man cried out, his voice cracking. "Dad!" she responded, collapsing into his arms. Ethan watched the reunion from a distance, feeling a mix of relief and curiosity. The man, Robert Brooks, held his daughter tightly, his face etched with worry and then immense relief. After a few moments, Robert approached Ethan. "Thank you," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved my daughter's life. I can't even begin to express my gratitude." Ethan shuffled awkwardly. "I'm just glad she's safe." "No, you don't understand," Robert insisted. "Emily was kidnapped. If you hadn't found her, who knows what might have happened?" Ethan was stunned. Kidnapped? The reality of the situation hit him hard. He had unknowingly stepped into something far more serious than he had imagined. "Please," Robert continued, "let me repay you. Anything you need, just name it." Ethan shook his head. "There's no need for that. I was just doing what anyone would do." Robert's eyes were intense. "Decent people are hard to come by these days. I want to offer you a job, as my personal driver and valet. The pay is 4 times what you make now." Ethan's mind raced. This was an unbelievable offer, a chance to change his and his mother's lives. But he hesitated, thinking of Laura and their modest home. I need to talk to my mom," Ethan stammered. "Of course," Robert nodded. "Take your time, but please consider it. You've done more than you know." As Ethan drove home, the weight of the offer settled in. This could be the opportunity they needed to escape their struggles. But could he leave behind the life he knew? Ethan knew one thing for certain. His life had taken an unexpected turn, and it all started with an act of compassion. Ethan Thompson returned home with his mind swirling from the events of the morning. The offer Robert Brooks had extended to him felt like a dream. As he parked the garbage truck in the driveway of their modest home, he took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He knew he had to discuss this with his mother, Laura, and he wasn't sure how she would react. Inside, the house was warm and smelled of freshly baked bread. Laura was in the kitchen, her arthritic hands moving deftly as she prepared dinner. Despite her physical ailments, she always managed to create a comforting environment for them both. "Mom, we need to talk," Ethan said as he entered the kitchen. Laura looked up, concern immediately crossing her face. "What happened? Are you okay?" Ethan nodded. "I'm fine, but something incredible happened today." He proceeded to tell her about the young woman he had helped, Emily Brooks, and the offer from her father, Robert. Laura listened intently, her eyes widening in disbelief as Ethan described the situation. "So, this man wants to give you a job? As his personal driver and valet? With a salary 4 times what you make now?" She repeated, incredulous. "Yes, Mom," he insisted. "He said it's his way of repaying me for helping Emily," Ethan explained. Laura sat down heavily, her mind racing. This was the break they had been praying for, but it was so sudden. "Ethan, this is an amazing opportunity. We've struggled for so long, and this could change everything for us. But are you sure about this? It's a big decision." Ethan nodded slowly. "I know it is, but I think it's worth considering. We could finally pay off our debts, and you wouldn't have to work so hard anymore." Laura's eyes filled with tears. She had spent years worrying about their future, and now, out of the blue, a chance for a better life was within their grasp. "If you think this is the right thing to do, then I support you, Ethan. Just promise me you'll be careful." The next day, Ethan called Robert Brooks to accept the job offer. Robert sounded genuinely pleased and arranged for Ethan to start the following week. Ethan's heart pounded with a mix of excitement and anxiety as he hung up the phone. This was the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Ethan's first day as Robert's personal driver and valet was a whirlwind of activity. The Brooks mansion, though in need of some repair, was grand and filled with an air of old-world charm. Robert introduced Ethan to the household staff and showed him around the property. Emily was there too, looking much better than when Ethan had first seen her. She greeted him with a shy smile. "Thank you again for helping me," she said softly. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along." Ethan smiled back. "I'm just glad you're safe." Working for the Brooks family was a stark contrast to his previous job. The tasks were demanding but not physically taxing like driving the garbage truck. Ethan found himself quickly adapting to his new role. He was responsible for driving Robert and Emily to their various appointments, maintaining the vehicles, and assisting with any other tasks Robert required. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan began to settle into his new life. He and Emily developed a quiet friendship. Despite the initial awkwardness, they found common ground in their shared experiences of hardship. Emily had her own struggles, having been through a traumatic event, and Ethan's kindness and understanding helped her feel safe. One evening, as Ethan was polishing the family's vintage car, Emily approached him. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" "Sure. What's on your mind?" Ethan replied, looking up from his work. "Why did you help me that day? You didn't know me, and I wasn't exactly polite," Emily asked, her voice curious but sincere. Ethan thought for a moment before answering. "I guess it's just who I am. My mom raised me to always help those in need, no matter what. We've had our share of tough times, and I know how it feels to be in a desperate situation. I couldn't just leave you there." Emily nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. "I'm glad you did. You changed my life that day." As time passed, Ethan noticed a growing sense of confidence in himself. He was no longer the downtrodden garbage truck driver. He was respected and valued in his new role. His mother's health improved as she no longer had to work tirelessly to make ends meet. For the first time in years, they had a sense of financial stability and hope for the future. Yet, despite the positive changes, Ethan remained humble and grounded. He never forgot where he came from or the struggles he and his mother had endured. He continued to live by the values of compassion and kindness that had brought him to this point. However, a part of Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this new chapter was just the beginning of an even greater journey. Little did he know, the biggest twists and turns were yet to come, and his acts of compassion would lead to opportunities he could never have imagined. Ethan Thompson's life had transformed in ways he could hardly believe. The days of driving a garbage truck in the biting cold seemed distant now. Working for the Brooks family brought new challenges and rewards, but it was the relationships he built that meant the most to him. Ethan's bond with Emily grew stronger as they spent more time together. She had confided in him about her kidnapping ordeal, revealing the trauma she still battled. Ethan listened with empathy, offering support without judgment. Their friendship deepened, and although Ethan felt a spark of something more, he remained professional, aware of the boundaries. One evening, Ethan drove Emily to a charity gala. As they approached the event, Emily seemed unusually quiet. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked gently, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. Emily sighed, her fingers fidgeting with her dress. "Just a bit nervous. These events can be overwhelming." "You'll do great," Ethan reassured her. "You always do." Emily smiled gratefully. "Thanks, Ethan. I don't know what I'd do without you." The gala was held in an opulent ballroom, filled with the town's elite. Ethan parked the car and stepped out, opening the door for Emily. As she entered the building, he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. She had come so far from the frightened girl he had found on the roadside. Later that night, as Ethan waited by the car, Robert Brooks approached him. "Ethan, I've been meaning to talk to you," Robert began, his tone serious. "Yes, Mr. Brooks?" Ethan responded, his curiosity piqued. "You've been a tremendous asset to our family. Your dedication and integrity haven't gone unnoticed," Robert said. "I'd like to offer you a promotion. How would you feel about managing the estate?" Ethan was stunned. "Manage the estate? I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Robert smiled. "You've earned it." Ethan felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you, sir. I'd be honored." As the months passed, Ethan embraced his new role with enthusiasm. Managing the Brooks estate was demanding but fulfilling work. He oversaw the staff, managed the grounds, and ensured everything ran smoothly. His responsibilities increased, but so did his confidence and skills. One afternoon, as Ethan was reviewing some paperwork in the study, Emily knocked on the door. "Got a minute?" she asked, peeking inside. "Of course, come in," Ethan replied, setting the papers aside. Emily sat down, looking thoughtful. "I've been thinking a lot lately about everything that's happened." Ethan nodded, sensing she had something important to say. "Go on." "I realized that you've become more than just an employee to us. You're a friend, Ethan. And I care about you," she admitted, her cheeks flushing slightly. Ethan's heart raced. He had long harbored feelings for Emily but had kept them hidden. "I care about you too, Emily. More than you know." Emily smiled, relief and happiness mingling in her expression. "I'm glad to hear that. I was worried I was the only one." Ethan reached out, taking her hand in his. "You're not alone, Emily. I felt the same way for a while now." Their connection grew stronger, and over the next few months, Ethan and Emily spent more time together outside of their professional roles. They went on walks around the estate, shared meals, and talked about their dreams and fears. Ethan felt a sense of contentment he hadn't known was possible. However, the peace was soon disrupted. One evening, while Ethan and Emily were having dinner, the phone rang. Emily answered, her face growing pale as she listened. "What is it?" Ethan asked, concern evident in his voice. "It's my father," Emily said, her voice shaking. "He's had a heart attack. He's in the hospital." Ethan's heart sank. "We need to get there now." They rushed to the hospital, fear and worry gnawing at them. Robert was in the ICU, hooked up to various machines. The doctors told them it was a severe heart attack, and his condition was critical. Emily was devastated, and Ethan stayed by her side, offering comfort and support. Over the next few days, Ethan took on even more responsibilities, managing the estate while also being there for Emily and her father. The situation was tense, and the future uncertain. Ethan's compassion and dedication were put to the test, but he remained steadfast. One night, as Ethan sat by Robert's bedside, the older man stirred. "Ethan?" Robert's voice was weak but clear. "I'm here, Mr. Brooks," Ethan said, leaning forward. "I need you to promise me something," Robert said, his eyes meeting Ethan's with an intensity that belied his frailty. "Take care of Emily. She needs someone like you." Ethan swallowed hard, emotion welling up inside him. "I promise, sir. I'll always be there for her." Robert nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Thank you, Ethan. You've been like a son to me." Ethan felt a surge of gratitude and responsibility. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he was determined to honor his promise and support the Brooks family through whatever came next. His life had changed in ways he never expected, and he was ready to face the future with courage and compassion. The days following Robert Brooks' heart attack were a blur of hospital visits, estate management, and emotional support. Ethan Thompson juggled his new responsibilities with determination, never once wavering in his promise to Robert. Emily Brooks, though shaken by her father's condition, found solace in Ethan's steadfast presence. One evening, as Ethan and Emily sat in the hospital waiting room, the doctor approached them with a grave expression. "Mr. Brooks is stable for now, but his recovery will be slow. He'll need constant care and support." Emily nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, doctor. We'll do whatever it takes." As they left the hospital, Ethan turned to Emily. "We'll get through this together. I'll make sure everything at the estate runs smoothly so you can focus on your father." Emily smiled through her tears. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Ethan." Back at the estate, Ethan took charge, ensuring that every detail was attended to. He organized the staff, handled the finances, and kept the property in pristine condition. Despite the added pressure, he felt a sense of purpose and fulfillment. He was no longer just a garbage truck driver. He was a vital part of the Brooks family. Months passed, and Robert's health slowly improved. He returned home, still weak but grateful for the support of his daughter and Ethan. One sunny afternoon, as Robert sat on the porch, he called Ethan over. "Ethan, come sit with me," Robert said, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. Ethan joined him, curious about what Robert wanted to discuss. "I've been thinking a lot about the future," Robert began. "I'm not as young as I used to be, and I need to make sure that Emily is taken care of, no matter what happens." Ethan listened intently, sensing the importance of Robert's words. "You've proven yourself to be a man of integrity and compassion," Robert continued. "I want you to have a more permanent role here, not just as an employee, but as part of our family." Ethan was taken aback. "Mr. Brooks, I'm honored. But what do you mean?" "I want you to manage the estate indefinitely," Robert explained. "And I want you to be with Emily. It's clear to me that you two care deeply for each other. I couldn't ask for a better man to look after my daughter." Ethan's heart swelled with emotion. He had always felt a deep connection with Emily, but hearing Robert's blessing made it even more meaningful. "Thank you, sir. I'll do everything I can to make sure Emily and the estate are well taken care of." Later that evening, Ethan found Emily in the garden, tending to the flowers. He approached her, his heart pounding with anticipation. "Emily, I need to talk to you." Emily looked up, a smile playing on her lips. "What is it, Ethan?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Your father and I had a conversation today. He wants me to stay on as the estate manager permanently. And he also gave us his blessing." Emily's eyes widened. "His blessing? For what?" "For us," Ethan said softly. "Emily, I've cared about you from the moment we met. I want to be with you, to support you and your father. I love you." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she stepped closer to Ethan. "I love you too, Ethan. You've been my rock through all of this. I can't imagine my life without you." They embraced, the weight of their shared experiences and mutual love bringing them closer than ever. Their relationship, born out of compassion and strengthened through adversity, was a testament to the power of kindness and the unexpected opportunities it brings. With Robert's health slowly improving and Ethan's new role secured, the future looked bright. Ethan and Emily worked together to maintain the estate, their bond growing stronger each day. Laura, now free from the burden of constant work, found joy in seeing her son thrive and in the newfound stability of their lives. Ethan's journey from a struggling garbage truck driver to a valued member of the Brooks family illustrated the profound impact of a single act of kindness. His compassion not only changed his life but also brought hope and love to those around him. As they faced the future together, Ethan knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would overcome them with the same compassion and determination that had brought them this far.